My husband and I are starting to look at buying a house, and I have a couple of things that I just have questions on. The first one being, why is a broken down shack $350,000? I am appalled at the prices right now. And yes, I know the market's not that great.
Oh, you are not alone. First time home buyers, I get it. I hear you. You're constantly saying to yourselves, so what if I'm never able to buy a house? So I want to talk to you about that fear and hopefully give you some guidance. The way I'm going to do that today is I'm going to show you some of these videos, these TikToks of people in your situation just venting about their experience of buying a home and their frustrations. And of course, I'm going to share my thoughts about their frustrations and hopefully give a little advice. And I'm also going to share with you some tips on what you should be doing to prepare to buy a house. It's going to take a lot of work, but it's not impossible. So not all hope is lost. So let's get into it right now.
I'm 34, single, trying to buy a house, and it's the most ghettoest, heartbreaking thing I've ever been in my life. Let me tell you what happened this time, but first, let me paint the scene. So in my city, there are only 18 properties at a $225,000 budget, 2 bedrooms, 1.5 bath. If I remove the 1.5 bath, it goes up to 52 properties. So for good measure, we're looking at 50 properties. On Friday, I come across this townhouse. It's perfect. The bones of this place is great. It's 2 bedrooms with an extra room in the basement and a 2-car garage, heavy on the garage because we just had an ice storm, and I'm not doing that again. And what I really liked about this was that the fact that it was enough space for my family to come visit, enough space for me to have a bedroom and an office or a roommate should I want one. It's enough space for me to do whatever I want to do with it. So Friday around 4 p.m., my real estate agent sets up a time for us on Sunday at 11 to go view this property. At like 10:15, I get a text message from my real estate agent saying they canceled our showing. She's going to figure out what's going on. So she hits up the other real estate agent, and that real estate agent tells her that they're under contract. Mind you, this property had already been on the market for like almost 30 days. And so my real estate agent was like, common courtesy is for them to tell us they have an offer, let us go look at it, put in an offer, and then go from there. So my real estate agent is like really irritated with the other real estate agent, but there's nothing that we can do about it at this point. And I am so heartbroken, like so heartbroken.
Yeah, let's unpack this one a little bit. Okay, first, she's struggling with limited inventory. Although she said there's 50 homes in her budget, that's pretty good. Better than where I am in New Jersey. I mean, that's really good. But enough of that. Enough about me. This is still an issue in many, many markets. What I would say to this home buyer, and I say to many home buyers, I understand that you have a lot of wants and needs in your home. And yeah, might have to sacrifice a want or a need in a home in order to get into a home. Now, she explains here how much she needs to have a garage. If there was an ice storm, I guess she doesn't want their cars sitting in the driveway. God forbid another ice storm comes through. I understand that. But you gotta take a step back and really take a look at what your needs are. And could you live without it? Could you sacrifice the garage? Could you sacrifice an extra bathroom? I mean, I know it's kind of hard. It's a tough pill to swallow, but you have to step back and see if there is a house that doesn't check all the boxes, but you would be able to live in it. You know, you may end up moving into a home that's a totally different style than what you wanted. You know, you wanted a colonial and you ended up in high ranch, you know, something like that. Got to be open. You got to be open to other possibilities. I also want to address the other issue she mentioned here about having the showing scheduled and to have it canceled only to find out that they were under contract.
That's crazy.
This happens. This happens a lot. I've seen it happen a lot here. I understand that frustration. You know, her agent said common courtesy would have been, hey, we're reviewing an offer, but you can still show it. If I was the listing agent for that property, I would have told that buyer agent, like, yeah, we're currently negotiating another offer, but feel free to show it and you can still submit an offer. Now, I don't know what the rules are in every state. I can only speak for my market here in New Jersey, but when you're under contract, you're not supposed to show the home. Okay. But I don't know. I know I'm pushing the envelope here. I'm pushing the limits, and don't quote me on this, that you can absolutely do this. You got to talk to your real estate agent to find out what the rules are in the local MLS. Can you still go preview the property once it's under contract and then have an offer ready to go as a backup? You can. I mean, look, here in New Jersey, we had the attorney review period, right? Where it's 3 days, sometimes 5 or more. During the attorney review period, the home can still be showed, and which is fine. And believe it or not, we had that. We had a really strong offer. This is on one of my listings just recently. We had a really strong offer. And this other realtor said, you know what? My clients really want this property. I'm going to show it. And we're going to submit an offer as a backup. Okay, that's great. because you never know what happens. Deals fall apart every single day. So I don't know. I mean, in this situation, I would have pushed back. If I would have asked her agent, like, is there any way you can push on that agent just to let you in there? I know I'm probably speaking out of line here and telling you to break rules. I'm not telling you to break rules. Just find out that possibility. Like, have your agent try to go the extra mile and see if there's any way you could have gotten to that house, or write up an offer anyway and submit it, and just to have it there as a backup. Because I will tell you again, deals are falling apart. You saw my video 2 weeks ago, 41,000 contracts were canceled. It sounds like the way this buyer is describing it, that there's a lot of homes for sale in that market. So look, there's more homes to choose from. You never know. So anyway, I feel terrible for her about that. It sucks. It sucks.
Buying a home feels impossible in 2024 or ever, because when you look at the prices of homes, you'll be like, why does this place cost $1.2 million? It's just a 3-bedroom, not updated house. It's on less than an acre. It's like, it's a whatever house. And you're thinking to yourself, oh, this house is probably like worth, I don't know, $300,000, $400,000. It's in a good neighborhood. It's got good schools, but like certainly not worth 1.2 million. And then as a millennial, you kind of gaslight yourself and you say, well, is that because I think about home prices in terms of what they were around the 2008 era when everything was basically cheap because of the housing crisis? Or do I think that way because I've been around whiskers? Hey. But then no, you just scroll further down on Zillow, and when you click on the purchase history of the home, you see that the home sold for $347,000 in 2018, 2015, and now in 2024, they're asking $1.2 million. And you realize that people really are just getting away with it. They're selling a house that's worth $300,000, $400,000 for in the millions. And you realize it's not about how hard you work or how much you save, because you'll never buy a $1.2 million home that in your heart feels like it's a $300,000 home, because it is a $300,000 home.
This is the biggest disappointment for buyers everywhere. And the cost of homes now versus 5 years ago, we know how high they've all gotten, right? And I'm hearing from a lot of people that they're kicking themselves. They regret that they didn't buy early in the pandemic or prior to the pandemic. And the biggest reason being is that 5+ years ago, there was all this talk about the housing market was going to crash, prices were going to come down. And those people felt at that time, the monthly payments were too high and they weren't going to pay that. And they was like, no, I'm not paying that kind of money, and I'm going to wait for the prices to come down. That never happened. And I don't think it's going to happen at all. We're going to have a correction, but we're not going to see a 30% reduction like we did in the great financial crisis. Sorry to say that, but it's the truth. I want to touch on the comment she makes about how prices of homes were $300,000 back in, say, 2018, 2017, and now they're double that or upwards towards $1 million. And she says that the sellers are getting away with it, and that she feels that she's looking at this house feeling it's not worth that money. It's only worth $300,000. And we can thank our friend Zillow for that, right? Because Zillow gives you the data of the history of the sales of the home, right? This has really messed with people. And you know how I feel about Zillow. I'm not going to go there, but people rely on Zillow a lot. And it could be your friend or it could be your enemy. And here I think it's your enemy, because you're looking at that data and you're getting these numbers stuck in your head that, oh my God, they paid $347,000 for this house in 2018, and now you're asking, $650,000 or $700,000 or what have you. And they can't get past the fact that they paid $347,000 for the house in 2018. Now, you may not like what I have to say here. You may hate me for this, but here's the reality of this. These prices are not because the sellers made this happen. The market made these prices go up. People have been blaming sellers, blaming realtors for the rise in these prices. It's the market. When you have low inventory and high demand, it's jacking the prices up. And that's what has happened over the last 5 years. So I'm not coming at you, buyers. I'm not yelling at you. I'm just telling you this is the truth. And we need to get this thought out of your head and getting angry at home sellers that, oh, they're getting away with it. They're charging $1.2 million when they only paid, $400,000 for it 7 years ago. That's not their fault. They're pricing their home according to what the current market is. Okay. Now, this is my piece of advice. Scrap Zillow Stop looking at the data as to what those people paid 7 to 10 years ago. You need to look at the current market values today. I know it's going to be hard to do this at first, but you have to look at what homes are valued at today. Because if you're shopping for a home and you're going to buy a house, you want to make sure that the price is in line with the current market. This way, you know you are not overpaying in today's market. That's what you have to do. And I'm sorry to sound harsh here. I'm not. I'm just telling you the truth. This is why the prices are higher. It's not because of the sellers, it's because of the market. And you got to go with what the current market values are. Period. End of story.
That's right.
Hey, when you are ready to buy a home and you need to be connected to a real estate agent in your market, please feel free to click that link down below in the description box and fill out the form, and I'd be happy to connect you to an agent in your market.
So I said to my husband, I don't understand why everyone keeps saying that millennials can't buy homes when we live in California and literally all of our friends, not all, but most, own a home. We're millennials, our friends are millennials, and a lot of them own a home. So he's like, okay, like who? So I started listing off our friends who own homes, and every single one of them, he was like, they got help from their parents. They got help from their parents. Their parents gave them money. Their parents gave them money. Their parents helped them. And that includes us. We have a home because his parents helped us. But nobody talks about it. I feel like people want to pretend like they can do it on their own when literally I don't think any millennials own a home without their parents' help. And that's such a privilege to even have parents who can help you.
Oh, she is not wrong. Not wrong about that one. I've had many clients over the past 5 to 7 years who've had parents help them, giving them cash to help towards their down payment. Parents are looking at well, this is their inheritance anyway. I'm going to give them this money after I pass. So why not just give it to them now? So this is the reality. And there's no shame in that. Okay. If your parents are willing to offer it, I know it's a tough pill to swallow for many. And if they're offering, you can take that. That's fine. But unfortunately, there are some people who do not have parents that have the means to help them buy a house. So it's got to be super frustrating to not have parents that have the means to help them buy a home. I get it. And this is what it's come down to, right? People, buyers these days, they need the help, and it is what it is. This is how a lot of millennials are purchasing their homes. And I understand it where she feels like, we don't really own this, we got help. There's no shame in that. Okay. That's the first thing I want to say. There is no shame in that. Thank God you have parents that are able to help you. Okay. And I feel for the people that don't have the parents to help them out. And that's a struggle. But another thing I'm seeing too is a lot of buyers are purchasing homes with their parents. Yeah, there's a lot of multi-generational living situations that are popping up now, and it may not be a bad thing. It really may not be a bad thing. If you're thinking about starting a family, having grandparents live in the house with you to help take care of the baby, that may not be a bad idea. Now, I don't want you to be discouraged by these stories, but I do want to give you some tips on what you can do to help prepare yourself if you're thinking about buying a home. These are some things I'm going to recommend that you should be considering or should be doing. Okay, number one, this is not going to be popular among people, and you're going to hate me for it, but you may want to consider relocating out of the market that you are living in. If you're finding it really challenging, homes are really unaffordable where you are, you might have to consider relocating to an area where the prices are softening. All right. And I'm talking about the Sun Belt area. We're seeing prices come down a lot there. So if you really need to get into a home, you're tired of renting, it may not be a bad idea. You got to think outside the box. You got to get outside of your area. Go live somewhere brand new. There's someplace you've never been before. Check it out for a while. You may like it, or, live there for several years, build some equity, sell it, and then move back to be closer to family. And then at that point, hopefully you'll be able to afford it. The next thing I'm going to suggest to you is pay down your debt. Hone in on that and focus on that. Many of you have student loans, and I know there's a lot of issues regarding student loan payments these days. Not going to get into that, but you got to chip away at that, because the more you chip away at it, the better debt to income ratio you'll have, the better credit scores you'll have. So if you're not planning on buying a home for the next couple of years, start chipping away at those student loans and any debt that you have, and try not to incur any new debt. Don't open any new credit cards and don't do any of that. Like, really live within your means. Another thing I'm going to suggest to you is find ways to increase your income. I know. Probably it's easier said than done, but you could pick up a side hustle. I know a lot of people that do DoorDash, Uber Eats, do all those things. It's not a bad thing. You could pick up a side hustle, pick up a second job, or in your current job, look for other positions in the company that pay more. That's just something else you're going to have to do. The next thing I'm going to tell you is to save, save, save. You got to save for that down payment, your closing cost, and your emergency fund. It's daunting. I get it. I know. But if you make a commitment to it, and say, I'm going to put away, say, $100 each week, $200 a week, however you're going to do it, stick to that budget. That bank account's going to grow pretty darn quick. So just get your head in the game, commit to it, and just start putting money aside. The other thing I'm going to tell you is you want to work with a reputable lender. Get recommendations from friends, coworkers, family members. Talk to local real estate agents. If you're already working with a realtor, get recommendations from reputable lenders, because this is a problem I'm seeing a lot. I'm getting people reaching out to me and they say, hey, I'm interested in buying a house, looking to spend between $300,000 and $400,000. And my next question is, are you pre-approved? And a lot of times they come back and say, no, I'm not. But they have this magic number, $300,000 to $400,000 stuck in their head that this is how much I think I can afford. But then reality hits when you go talk to a lender and they qualify you, and you only qualify, say, for $250,000 or $300,000. Before you even start looking at homes, talk to a lender. Understand the numbers, understand the math, and make sure you are comfortable with that monthly payment. Very, very important. You have to talk with a lender. Now, some of these suggestions, they may be hitting you hard and you may not like what I'm saying, but it's a harsh reality right now in the housing market that we're in. And these are the things that you're just going to have to consider doing in order to achieve that goal of homeownership. The other big question that I get asked a lot is, what if I buy a house and the market crashes tomorrow? I answer that question right there. Watch this video. Thank you so much for watching me today to get your dose of real estate reality. My name is Jackie Baker, and I will see you next time.